What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 3 new most broken builds in part of Exile's 2 new update, The Dawn of the Hunt. So in this guide I will give you a quick overview of each setup, then I will explain what skill gems and upgrades should you focus on, then as well we'll see what is the best gear and how to get it, and then finally we will go over the passive skill tree, stats, your skill rotations, and even what charm should you use, so we would be able to get the highest damage possible and much more. This setup is a fresh and powerful combination of the new Huntress Ascendancy and the Bleed Spear skills. This will revolve around fast-paced, agile combat with a focus on applying and stacking powerful bleed effects through ranged spears or the javelin attacks. You will use the spear throw or the whirling blade to apply bleeds, to then kite or reposition while the enemy takes damage over time. This playstyle will emphasize a hit-and-run tactic, exploiting movement speed, bleed stacking, and trap-style positioning for one-shotting bosses or super fast clear speed. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the Huntress and our ascendancy is Amazon. Then for the first skill we have Rake with the stomping ground, deep cuts and blindside. Then second we got the Disengage with the martial tempo, Candace and ingenuity. Then next we got Blood Hunt with the bloodlust, bullseye, heavy swing, heft and close combat. Next we have Herald of Blood with brutality, precision and vitality. Then for the next one we have the Bloodhound's Mark with overpower, inspiration and the concentrated effect. Next we got Wind Dancer with the Culling Strike, blind and maim. Then next we got the Tame Beast with loyalty, minion mastery and muster. And finally we're using Explosive Spear with Overabundance, Expedite, Retreat and Primal Armament. Most of the setup is structured around spamming Rake to delete enemies in split seconds, so we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration, size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this attack damage node and then keep going while taking these 3. So Primal Instinct, Eagle Eye and Disorientation. Then next we keep on going until this point and then take this bottom left side, and then keep going until we get these 2, so careful aim and blur. Then next up we keep on going until this point and then take these 3, so Crimson Assault, perfectly balanced knife and versatile arms. Then after this we go until the end and then go up top till we get this whole thing. And then when that is done, now we circle back a little and now get everything until these 2, so the Doomsayer and the Bleeding Out. And then finally from here we can pretty much go where we started from and then get all of these nodes in the top right side, and the order in which you get them doesn't really matter, so it's more of a personal preference. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they are the most important ones to acquire early on in the game, to make our build functional, and then later on, the priority won't really matter that much. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply want to fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and gems, and then after that spend the rest in strength. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Critical Strike. This one focuses on enhancing the power and efficiency of your critical hits. You will gain significant bonuses to Critical Strike Chance and Critical Strike Multiplier, which will allow you to deal massive damage with the right setup. The node often provides an increased global Critical Strike Chance, making your hits more likely to land a critical, which is a key for scaling damage in a high-end content. Then second we want Penetrate. Whether it's elemental resistances, armor, evasion or energy shields, this gives us a massive damage boost. Penetrate is just not about damage, it's also about ensuring that your damage always lands, so this ascendancy will thrive on debuffing, piercing and breaking defenses, which makes it ideal for dealing constant high value hits in both fast-paced clearing and long boss fights. Then next we want Predatory Instincts, which is designed to enhance agility, offensive power and damage scaling through increased critical strike chance, attack speed and evasion. You'll gain increased critical strike chance against enemies that are on low life, which makes you highly efficient at finishing off weak enemies. And on top of this, the added attack speed will boost your offensive capability, allowing you to apply damage faster and stack debuffs like bleed or poison at an accelerated pace. And finally, we are going in for the kill. When you choose this one, it will grant you a significant boost to Critical Strike Chance and Critical Strike Multiplier when your enemies are below a certain life threshold. This means that once you've already chipped away at your targets and they are low on health, then your attacks become much more lethal, so combining these 2 last nodes will completely destroy any enemy that you come across. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Swift Spear with increased physical damage, adds to physical damage, more accuracy, increased attack speed and leech damage as life. Then also we got an offhand called the Coiled Buckler with increased block chance, evasion rating, max life, lightning resistance and reduced attribute requirements. Then for helmet we have the Cowled Helm with max life, accuracy rating, strength and fire resistance. Then for chest we have the Shrouded Vest with evasion rating, max life and chaos resistance. Then for belt we have the Long Belt with max life, cold resistance and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Bound Braces with the add physical damage to attacks, fire, cold and lightning resistance. Then for boots we're using the Soldiering Sabatons with armor and evasion. And for bonus stats we want increased movement speed, max life, fire and cold resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Amethyst Ring with chaos resistance, adds physical damage to attacks, max mana and strength. While for the second one we have the Topaz Ring with the lightning resistance, max life, chaos and cold resistance. And then finally for amulet we have the Jade Amulet with dexterity, spirit, then even more dexterity and fire resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which should be more for an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So our rotation is quite simple, but you will need to get used to it. We are going to be constantly on the move, weaving through enemies with sharp fluid motions. Every spear you will throw is not about impact, it's about the damage that follows. You don't need to stand and fight, as we can just watch them fall while we dash away. So we'll begin fights with a quick spear throw, immediately inflicting powerful bleeds that continue to drain enemies long after you've disengaged. Against tougher targets you will stack those bleeds, strafing and repositioning while they slowly tear apart. But then what about bosses? Well, they're all about timing. So keep moving, stay out of reach and just keep pressuring them as the bleed does the killing for us. Everything about this build will feed into that rhythm. Very high mobility, clean clears and a constant sense of momentum. It's not about tanking hits, it's about never being hit in the first place. So you will feel agile, tactical and lethal. And just keep spamming Rake as you see your enemies die in seconds. This setup is structured around using Contagion in combination with other chaos skills that will curse and explode enemies in very wide area. Overall, our main spammable skills have quite high mana cost to make it efficient, and that's why we are going to be using a wand like the Life Spring, which leeches percentage of max life when you cast spells. And on top of this, we can also use Asterisk Accuracy Gloves to get instant leech from our critical hits, so then this combination would completely remove the mana from equation and give us the ability to infinitely spam chaos skills and do massive amounts of damage without worrying about anything. The main gameplay idea behind our setup is to one-shot most enemies, and as they will die, they will continuously replenish our life and energy shield. However, for bosses, we will need to be careful, as not getting stun-locked is our main priority, and that's why we will use a specific setup, such as putting the spare in our multiple skill slot and much more. So let me show you the build, and for the main class we are going with the Witch and our ascendancy is Lich. Then for the first skill we have Contagion with Unleash and Magnified Effect. Then second we got the Withering Presence with Persistence. Then next we got Essence Drain with Pierce, Swift Affliction and Profanity. Next we have Despair with Decaying Hex and Heightened Curse. Then for the next one we have Blasphemy with the Hex Bloom, Despair and Ritualistic Curse. Then next we got the Frost Bomb with Fast Forward and Spell Cascade. And finally, we're using Shield Charge with the Martial Tempo. Most of this setup is structured around using Contagion with the Essence Drain to delete enemies in split seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration, size and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you're interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start the Dispel and Minion Damage node, and then go like this while taking these three, so Open Mine, Raw Destruction and Practice Signs. Then next we keep on going to the left and get everything until the spiral into Insanity. Then from here we circle back a little and keep on going until we get Entropy, and then take right. Then when we are here we want to get all of these, so first up take the top side and then the bottom side, and then again keep on going until we get to the actual end and then take right. And when we get to here then get both of these, so Dark Entries and the Patient Barrier. And now finally from here we can go down and get this whole left side, but usually at this point you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you prefer. All of these nodes that we got are very useful, but the ones I mentioned have the top priority, as they're the most important ones to acquire early on in the game to make our build functional, and then later on, the priority won't really matter that much. Also, as far as attributes go, you just simply won't fulfill your attribute requirements for gear and gems, and then after that spend the rest in intelligence. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to unlock the Soulless form. This offers substantial benefits. It will require careful balancing of life and energy shield values, and investing in energy shield is crucial, as it serves as a buffer that prevents life loss. However, if your energy shield is depleted, the bypass damage will affect your life, which makes it essential to manage both resources effectively. Then second, we want the Eternal Life. When we combine this with the Soulless form, it will provide a robust defensive layer, by ensuring that your life remains unchanged as long as you have energy shield remaining. You will be able to take damage without compromising your life. Then third, we want the Necromantic Condient. To effectively utilize this node, we need to invest into mana regeneration and max mana, and this will ensure that mana drain does not hinder our overall performance. If done properly, this setup can significantly increase our damage and give this one-shot AoE potential. And lastly, we got Blackened Heart. Because of our already higher maximum mana, this will not only enhance the Unholy Might buff, but also support the other lich mechanics that scale with it. By using this 4-node combo, we will do insane damage, but a significant mana drain could become an issue, and that's why you need to follow the specific gear setup. Next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Lifespring Wand with the mana drain, max mana, increased cast speed, and the ability to leech percentage of max life whenever we cast a spell. You of course don't have to use this specific weapon if you can't afford it, so in any case try to look for something similar. Then also we got an offhand called the Antler Focus with energy shield, reduced attribute requirements, and more levels of all spell skills. Then for helmet we have the Jungle Tiara with energy shield, max life, max energy shield, and more to fire resistance. Then for chest we have the Anchorite Garb with evasion and energy shield. Then also more spirit, max life, and cold resistance. Then for belt we have the Rawhide Belt with increased life flask recovery, max life, and fire and lightning resistance. Then for gloves we got the Torn Gloves with energy shield, max life, and chaos resistance. Then for boots we are using the Silk Slippers with energy shield, increased movement speed, max mana, max life, and lightning resistance. Then for our first ring we got the Sapphire Ring with cold resistance, max life, more to intelligence, and more to cold resistance. While for the second one we have the Ruby Ring with more to fire resistance, max mana, max life, and lightning resistance. And then finally for amulet we have the Solar Amulet with more to spirit, max life, and chaos resistance. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best case scenario setup, which should be more of an example of what stats and prefixes to look for. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. The core damage of our setup is Chaos, which we can use to deal devastation through toxic and cursed spells. You will need to focus on skills that deal Chaos damage over time, such as the Essence Drain, Contagion, and the Malice Burst. And then for defense, we will rely on Energy Shield, so you'll use Life Leech to convert Chaos damage into healing, which will allow you to stay alive during tough encounters. So, we want to start fights by casting Essence Drain that spreads Chaos damage over area, which applies a debuff that makes enemies explode on death, causing AoE damage to nearby enemies as well. We want to maximize its potential by scaling up damage and AoE efficiency. Then also we could use Malice Burst, which is a powerful burst of chaos energy that can be used to hit multiple enemies at once, and it is perfect for clearing large groups of enemies quickly. And then finally we can finish it off with the Contagion, that spreads chaos damage over time to the enemies, and it's perfect for applying chaos damage debuffs to the enemies before they die, which triggers cascading explosions. So this is an endgame build that utilizes the power of the attribute stacking to increase its performance. Our main goal is to stack as much strength, dexterity, and intelligence as possible, to then scale it with our unique items such as the Pillar of the God and the Hand of Wisdom and the Action. One of the best things about our setup is that all it needs to function at the start is the Pillar of the Caged God, which is pretty affordable on a budget, but then later on we can scale it incredibly high with each unique item and massive power upgrades and much more. Our main playstyle will revolve around using the Tempest Flurry in the combination with the Charged Staff that can hit multiple times and create lightning shockwaves. If you want to zoom through the maps insanely fast while destroying anything and everyone that crosses your path, then this is the one for you. So let me show you the build, and for the main class, I have chosen to go with the Mercenary, and our ascendancy is the Gambling Legionnaire. Then for the first skill, we have the Tempest Flurry with the support gems such as the Martial Tempo, Inspiration, Glacianation, and the Ice Bite. Then second, we get the Charge Staff with the Primal Armament, Lightning Infusion, Overcharge, and the Concentrated Effect. Then next we got the Tempest Belt with the Concentrated Effect, Overabundance, Elemental Focus, and the Close Combat. Next we have the Wind Dancer with the Blind, Maim, and the Pin. Next up we have the Herald of the Ice with Magnified Effect, Lightning Infusion, Primal Armament, and the Elemental Focus. Next we got the Combat Frenzy with the Profusion. And finally, for the last one, we are using the Glacial Cascade with no support gems. Most of the setup is structured around using the Tempest Fury and the Charge Staff to delete huge amount of enemies in seconds. So we use gems and skills that will support and increase their duration and damage, while the rest are powerful buffs and utility skills that usually get activated in the background. Also, at this point I would usually show you a leveling build, but this time our particular setup is specifically meant for only endgame, because it will only start working when we get the quarterstaff called the Pillar of the Cage God. So until that point I would recommend to use my cheap gas grenade build, which link you can find in the description and on this website. Next up we have our passive tree, and if you are interested in a full in-depth guide on how it works, then check out my beginner guide. So let's take a look at our setup, and we want to start at this armor and evasion node, then go like this while also grabbing the battle hardened and the relentless. Then from here keep on moving while also on our way getting these two, and also the beef. Then afterwards we go like this, and then here at the end we want to go up top and get this blood magic. We want to use this specific node because scaling mana and handling mana cost is expensive, while maintaining very high tankiness, so this is a great keystone to solve any potential mana problem. Then after this, we now want to circle back and this time go to the bottom and get this Brute Strength. And then as you can see from here, the whole path pretty much just goes in a straight line, so just follow it while also grabbing everything that you can see right here. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is that you don't need to get these two, so the Lightning Rod and the Flash Storm, if you still haven't equipped the Hands of the Wisdom and Action. And then from here, the most important nodes and the ones we want to get is the Storm and the River, as they increase our evasion rating while also letting the freeze to build up faster for more consistent explosions with the Herald of the Ice. And on top of this, it also makes keeping up our charge staff much easier, by giving it an extra duration when consuming a single power charge, since it counts as using an extra charge. And then finally, the last most important part is the resonance, as it is one of the core nodes of our build. It will convert the frenzy charges gained from the combat frenzy into the power charges, which will allow us to cast our insane charge staff. And then now let's go all the way to the middle again, and for Ascendancy build, this is what we have. So at the beginning you want to get the adaptive capability, then second get the enhanced effectiveness. Because of how many attributes we will stack, this node will grant us a massive amount of life early on. With about 500 strength, this node will result in more than 1000 extra life. Then for the third one we want to get the integrated efficiency. And then finally for the last one we get the gem studded, which is another powerful node. If we don't get this one, then our build will run out of the effective support gems. So we want to get it to not only increase our DPS, but also to create the bigger explosions by using the Herald of the Ice. So feel free to use the exact same path as we have right here. And don't forget to check this video's description to find the link for this website. And this should make it easier for you to follow the path. Next up we have our Atlas passives. So when we start we wanna first of all go to the right side and get all of these nodes, until we get to this keystone called the Deadly Evolution. Then from here we wanna circle back to the middle, and this time go up top, until we get to the second keystone called the Corrupted Infusion. And then from this point and onwards you can unlock the rest of the nodes in whatever order you want. But then on top of this, we have even more passives. Which order in which you unlock them doesn't really matter, so this time it's up to you. And this is how it should look like for the ritual. Then next we have Delirium. Then third we have the bosses, and then on top of that we have the pinnacle bosses. Then next we also have our expedition setup, and then finally our breach setup. Then next we have our gear. The weapon of our choice is the Pillar of the Cage God. This is relatively cheap and common item, however in the early game we want to use the Glacial Rune or the Storm Rune to increase its flat damage output even more. On top of this, if you get lucky enough, then you can also find this quarterstaff with 3 sockets. Then for the helmet we have the 3 dragons. And after you get the Hounds of the Wisdom in action, then this is the third priority that you should get, as it is mandatory to ensure that you are freezing enemies for a massive Herald of the Ice explosion. Then for the chest we have the Warrior Invictus. This is another powerful item, but this time not mandatory whatsoever, so use this one or anything similar. And for stats we wanna focus on increased evasion, more to strength, dexterity and intelligence, and more resistances like fire, cold, lightning and chaos. Then for the belt we have the double belt with increased charm charges. And for bonus stats we want max life, more to strength and chaos and fire resistance. Then for gloves we got the Hound of the Wisdom in action. This should be the second item that you prioritize after our weapon, as it is another core part of our build, and will enable us to stack our attributes and increase DPS by a massive amount. Then for the boots we're using the advanced hunting shoes with evasion and energy shield. And for more we want increased movement speed, max life, more to dexterity and fire and cold resistance. Then for first and second ring we got the same one called the prismatic ring, with more to all elemental resistances. And for more we want adds fire or cold damage to attacks, and more strength, dexterity and intelligence. And then finally for the amulet we have Amber Amulet with strength. And for more we want more to all attributes, more to strength and intelligence. No matter which gear you choose, just at least try to get 75% resistance cap on all 4 elements. This is the best setup in the endgame, and if you only can afford few things, then I would recommend to prioritize the weapon, then the gloves, and finally the headpiece. And now finally, let's quickly take a look at how this build will work. So for maps and AoV farming, we simply want to spam our Tempest Flurry while making sure to maintain the charge staff for as long as possible. However, then for single targets and boss fights, we want to start by attacking with the Tempest Flurry to generate combo stacks. So then we use our Tempest Belt and then continue attacking with the Tempest Flurry. This combo will freeze the bell and generate a power charge. So then afterwards we use our power charge by casting the charge staff. So then, once the charge staff is active, we want to continue attacking the target with the Tempest Fury, and replace the Tempest Bell whenever it goes down.